Hello, welcome to Money and Impact. I'm Suzanne Caldeira. I'm a mortgage lender. I've been in lending for the past 23 years, and the title of this show is Money and Impact. Deal with a lot of money issues, whether it be people trying to figure out how much money they need for their first home, their second, or their third. And then the other section of the title is impact. And throughout my career, I've met so many amazing people that have inspired me, both professionally and personally. And today I've got someone who I am excited to have on here is Jess Powers from eXp Realty. Thanks for coming.
Hey, Suzanne. Thanks for having me. This is fun, and it's exciting to see you in this format. We often just communicate by phone all the time, but it's great to see you here and sharing your stories and sharing the community that you've developed.
Hey, I appreciate you a ton, and I know you're not supposed to say it, but when it comes to realtors, you are you are my favorite, okay? I'm putting it out there.
We'll have it on video.
Yes.
I'm going to use that. I'm going to put that on Reels. No, I appreciate that. And you know that, how long have you and I worked together now? It's been?
Oh my goodness. It's definitely been between maybe 7 to 8 years,
I would say that's about right. I remember when I was trying to find a female lender, because frankly, sometimes women just like to work with women, and I work with a lot of women who are buyers or sellers, and it's still a very male-dominated industry in many ways, especially on the lending side. So when I came across you, and I remember how you called me, because you had been working with another buyer, and I think I was the listing agent.
Yes.
And I was so impressed at how thorough you were, and I was like, she's my person.
Thank you. That means the world to me, and I want to help you get as much of your story out. Share with the viewers, how did you get into this and why?
Yeah, so I got my real estate license 10 years ago. I got to back up a little bit before that. I had been a stay-at-home mom for about 7 years. Frankly, being a stay-at-home mom was not a great fit for me. But that was the family decision. I had a little bit of part-time jobs, writing for a publication. Prior to that, I had been in the environmental nonprofit sector. And unfortunately, my husband, who's now my ex-husband, that's the direction that went. We were great parents together, and we still are great parents, but we were not great partners. And so when we split, and this happens to a lot of women, especially if you've been a stay-at-home mom, what do you do next? Especially after you've stepped out of an industry for a very long time. So I had to figure out not only how to be able to figure out how to support myself and my kids, where did I go from there? So when we divorced, he bought me out of our house. And I knew that if I bought a 3-family property, that would be one of those pillars to having some sort of financial stability. So that's what I did. I bought a 3-family. And in fact, he called my parents and said, she doesn't know what she's doing. She's buying in the wrong neighborhood. And I remember the conversation I had with my dad. Now, the first real estate book I read was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which a lot of people read that book, and it was all about house hacking, or that was one of the components. So that had already made sense to me. So I knew my numbers, and I knew that the numbers worked. And I bought, that was in 2011, 2012, which looking back over where real estate has gone over that, that time, that was a great time to buy. So I explained that to my dad, and my dad's amazing, and he said, sounds like you know what you're doing. Let me know if I can do anything to help you. So I bought that multifamily, and I went to work for a nonprofit. I went to work for Waterfire, which was a great experience, but the problem with nonprofits is many times they're underfunded, undersupported, and it means there's a ceiling. And so I was making less than $30,000 a year. Now, my living expenses were covered because of that multifamily, so that made that a little bit easier. But I knew this is not sustainable. There really wasn't any pathway to leadership within that organization at the time. So I said, okay, what do? I can either go back to school, or I can find something else to do. And I ran into my real estate agent, who was a friend of mine, and she said, why don't you get your real estate license, Jess? So I did that. And I thought, well, I can sell houses maybe part-time. That seems like a good gig. So I got my real estate license, and that actually turned out to be such a great fit for me. So I've had my license for 10 years. That first house I was able to leverage to get another multifamily. So moved the kids into the other multifamily, which offered us more room, and kind of went that direction. So now I own a couple multifamilies, and I eventually got us into a single family home, and where I live now.
When you were married, you mentioned being a stay-at-home mom. Were you involved at all in the finances, or did he make that call because you weren't, or was it just from a point of trying to put you down?
We were so young. We were very young, and we were in survival mode and did not have a great foundation to our relationship. So he was doing what he needed to do to figure out financially what to do, and really it was important to him. His mom had been a stay-at-home mom, and frankly, I was in the nonprofit world again, before that, and that job was not a job that translated well to a mom and that lifestyle. So it just sort of went on the back burner of what to do, and being home with little kids is hard. But I didn't find it very fulfilling. Again, part of that is I was very young, so I had no perspective, and I think life is all about perspective. And I would appreciate it a little bit more now, but at the time, I was very concerned about what was I going to do once the kids were in school. And then our relationship sort of degraded.
Yeah.
So I look back with, there's lots of life lessons to be learned there. And it certainly was not his fault. I wish that I had found real estate while I was still in that marriage, because I think you can build, that's one of the unique things about the real estate business, is you can build a career slowly if you need to, and that can work very well for moms or dads, or even to a certain extent as a side hustle, although I think with industry changes, that's becoming and is going to get much harder for people to do real estate as a part-time job.
And speaking of that, I know that there's a number of changes coming down the pike, and maybe if you can share some perspective on some of those changes and what you're seeing in the market.
Yeah, I feel really fortunate to have those 10 years under my belt. So I'm very clear on what I offer my clients and all of the things that I've put in place. That's what we do. I know that you have your systems that your company provides you, but then you also have your own personal systems, organizational, educational structures you've put in place for your clients. I've seen them. It's one of the reasons I've always loved working with you.
Thank you.
And I've done that as well. So for a new agent to start out in this industry, if you don't have that already, I think it's going to be really hard to be able to tell buyers in particular what your value is that you bring. So I just finished a video on this topic that I'm going to be posting because as of, I think it's August 14th, the commissions as we know and as they are paid is changing, and it's a disclosure change. So as it is right now, you can look on Zillow or Redfin and you can see what the buyer agent compensation is. As of August 14th, that disclosure goes away. So nobody will know unless they call the listing agent, is the buyer agent going to be compensated as part of the seller deduction, or is it not? And that's just different. It hasn't been that way, at least in the time that I've been in the business, and from what I understand, even into the early or late 80s. And I think it's extremely expensive for buyers right now, and that affordability issue. And if a buyer has to say, okay, I'm putting down 5% or more for a down payment and I'm paying closing cost, now I also have to figure in my buyer's agent compensation. The math just doesn't work for some buyers. And I think it's going to make the offer process a little bit more complicated, because certainly an agent, we can write that into the offer. At the end of the day, the seller only cares about what they net, what that check is, and they'll just have to deduct that. But I think it does make it a little complicated.
Skill level, I would think, is critical for for the agent, for you to be able to convey that to the consumer, right?
Yeah, you have to be able to know, okay, well, if you work with me, or here's what you get, is essentially what you have to be able to have that conversation with buyers. I think the problem is buyers never had to really worry about it. So buyers didn't have to think about, so on one hand, I think this is good, because buyers didn't have to worry about that part of the pay. Therefore, they didn't really have to worry about what that agent actually brought to the table. So they could work with their aunt or their cousin or their next door neighbor because they thought, oh, that agent's just opening the door for me. And they didn't have the conversation about, oh, what are your organizational structures? What's your educational process? What's your relationship with other agents in the industry? What's your success rate for getting offers accepted? They never had to have those conversations, but I think buyers should have those conversations. And I think now they will be more inclined, because if they actually have to put their money towards it, then they're going to be thinking, well, what are you doing to work for me? And I think that is a good thing.
You do such an amazing job with your education. That was one of the things that appealed to me when I first got to know you, with how thorough you were and how much you're consumer first, as opposed to your own personal goals. And sometimes you don't see that in our industries. And why did you go down that direction as opposed to other directions that we've seen others in the industry use?
I think it's because I started very early on in the nonprofit sector, and I had to feel like I was making a difference in people's lives in order for it to make sense to me. I don't want to just be a cog in a wheel. I don't want to just be, I'm not a door opener. I'm not just schlepping homes for a living. And the money wasn't really what motivated me. I never actually, and I've always, I don't do the math. I don't think about what the commission is going to be, because you don't actually get paid until you get to the closing table and beyond. So what I do think about is, how have I actually helped somebody? And I also didn't get that. I really didn't get that from the agent that I worked with. And I didn't know that until I got into this industry, and then I went to sell that house, and there were all of the things that I realized, oh, that should have been taken care of in the inspection period, or, oh, I was the only offer. Why didn't we negotiate a better sale? But she also represented the seller. So I just didn't realize that. I didn't really know how this business worked. So when I got my real estate license, I said, I want to do things differently. I want to be able to provide people with all of the things that I wish I had known before I even tried to buy a house on my own. I got lucky. The house that I bought, the timing was great. It was a really smart move, but I got kind of lucky with that. And I don't want people to just hope that they get lucky. So I've got my home buyer boot camp. And it was also a time saver for me. I recognize that if I can't have the same conversations with people over and over and over again. I need them to be able to read it. I need them to be able to watch it in a video, because everybody learns differently. And I needed to be able to have that automated. So that was the other part. When you reach a certain level of business, there's just not enough hours in the day. So those videos that I've created, I can just keep recycling them over and over again and say, here, watch this. You don't know what contingencies are that are in a contract? No problem. I've got a video. I've also got a blog. Watch those, read those, and then let me know what questions you have, and we can talk through it to clarify it. That makes a lot more sense to me.
Why do you think a lot of agents don't go that route?
It's hard.
Life is hard.
It's hard. It's very time consuming. I mean, it took me a long time to even be able to get to the point. I always knew I wanted to do videos because it just made sense to me. But it took me 5 years before I even probably recorded my first video. So before that, everything was in a Google Drive, and I'd send people to the Google Drive. And then I said, okay, well, that doesn't make sense. I need my own website. So let me do a website, and I'll create those as blog posts. Okay, I have those blog posts. Now I should just turn those into videos, because some people don't want to read it. And then I started creating the YouTube channel. which has worked great. It's not a YouTube channel that I'm trying to get more subscribers. That would be great, but it serves the purpose of, hey, here's a video that I made on this, go do this. And it's just constantly been evolving. I mean, I'm gonna be switching those to a different homebuyer boot camp. I'm just gonna continue to elevate it.
What do you see as some of the most common questions that you get from a, say, home seller?
Sellers seem to want to know how long it's going to take. So they're not sure what the timeline is. And they don't know how far in advance they should be preparing their home. Or they're not sure what they should do in their home. Should I make this repair? Should I paint this bedroom? Or should I focus on this thing instead? What's going to give me the highest return? So those I think are the most common. The timeline and what should I do to get it prepared.
Let's flip the script. How about buyers?
Buyers, I love it when buyers come to me and they're literally just getting started, where they haven't talked to a lender, they haven't done anything, because they have no idea. That's my favorite, because I can say, no problem, I have all of that for you. I can make sure that you're connected to the right people. I can make sure that you understand what the contract looks like. So that's my favorite. I think most common buyers, they don't understand what the market is doing, so they don't understand what metrics to pay attention to so that they can decide, is it a good market, is it a bad market? And they're not sure what the process looks like.
I get that question a lot.
Yeah, they're just like, I have no idea. What does this look like? How does this happen? What does this work? I would say my least favorite buyers, you didn't ask me that question, but I'm going to posit that. My least favorite buyers are buyers that are just reaching out through Zillow, because too often they don't understand any of that process. They're not ready, and they think, oh, I'll just call about this house to get some information, or maybe they actually really love the house and they don't have anything in place. They don't have a pre-approval in place. They don't know what their budget is. They don't understand, is it going to be competitive? How do we win our offer if I really love this house? But I think people they don't understand how it works. And I would even say sometimes the people that have bought houses before that call on Zillow, why are you just accepting somebody that just randomly answers the phone when you have no idea what quality of agent they are? And just like every industry, there are bad politicians, there are bad plumbers, there's bad carpenters, there's definitely not agents that are skilled at this job.
And as a consumer, what are some of the things consumers should look for if they're saying, hey, I'm scoping out an agent? What are some of the things that they can do, on their phone or on their desktop to figure out, like, hey, is this person someone that's credible or legitimate that I should work with?
Right. I think a great test is, can you get that agent on the phone? That's one of the first things. When I sat down, when I very first got my license, and I met who became my mentor, Ned Murtha at Coastal Properties Group. One of the things I asked him is, hey, what's the secret to real estate? What's the secret to your success, Ned? And he said, I answer my phone. And I never forgot that, because it is so true. So many people do not answer their phone. And if you can't get somebody on the phone, that's just a whole other litany of issues that might come up. So I would say that's an easy test, but people should be checking people out online. They definitely should be reading their reviews. If an agent doesn't have Zillow reviews, and I would also say if the agent doesn't have a Google My Business review, then that agent probably doesn't have very many home sales. On Zillow, you can look up any agent and you can see every home that they've ever sold. You can see their past, where their area is. You can read their profile. And I also think agents should have a website. And I don't mean the canned brokerage website, because how they use their educational systems and tools is important. They also should have a social media presence. And I think they should have YouTube. They certainly should have Instagram. because you need to be able to get a sense of who that person is. I'm not the right agent for everybody. I have a type. Most of my clients have record players.
It's 2 turntables.
It's true. That's my social network is musicians and artists, and those are people that I connect with versus other people. My coach, David Brook, his clients probably are very different from my clients. That doesn't mean that they wouldn't get along, but the way that he approaches the industry is a little bit different than how I might approach it. So I think making sure that you actually connect with that agent. They're a full-time professional. They've got great reviews, because there's lots of great agents to choose from that fall within that category. And find the person, because you're going to spend a lot of time with that person.
It's true, yeah.
And I think it's the same with lenders. I would say all of those things, those are boxes that should all be checked, but the personality is a really important factor. It's a very personal business. It's a very personal decision, and that's okay.
And I think a high level of empathy is needed.
For sure.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned David, and you joined a little over 2 years ago, right? What drew you to join EXP?
So in 2021, when the market was crazy, I sold 65 houses as a solo agent, all on my own, and I worked probably 80 hours every day, or it feel like every day, 80 hours a week, and I was almost completely burnt out. And so I realized I need better structures in place I also need an assistant. I worked for a very small brokerage, just a local boutique brokerage, and I was really the only agent that was doing a lot of business. For the most part, there were about 15 agents, and everybody was pretty much part-time. And I just didn't have the support that I needed. I felt very loyal to that broker, but he also recognized that and encouraged me and was supportive and helped me to make that decision as well, and helped me to find the right place. So I looked at a lot of teams in Rhode Island, and I decided I wanted to keep doing my own thing and paving my own way. It's the way I've been able to play in the sandbox with everybody. Rhode Island is everybody knows everybody. So I wanted to stay friendly with everybody, and it felt a little safer to not pick sides, if you will.
Got it.
I also felt like EXP promises to be very collaborative, and I have found that it is, and I had felt, because I was essentially a solo agent by myself, I felt like I was working in a silo, and I wanted to be able to work with other people that I could perceive as business partners and share ideas with, share tools and resources, share everything with. And I found that in EXP, and I found that in Brook Group. I think of brokerages and teams as a platform. So EXP is just a platform. It offers certain tools both to agents, buyers, and sellers. And then a team does the same. It offers another set of tools that you can use. Maybe it offers 10 things and I only use 2, but I don't have to pay for those things up front. So between those 2 platforms, I felt like I was able to expand my business.
One of the things I love that you've been posting a bit on social, and I've stolen it, collaboration over competition. And when you speak about EXP and being willing to share ideas, sometimes in any local real estate community, you have people that are like, no, it's my secret. Are you like that because of having an abundant mindset, or is it something else?
I always had that mindset. I've told agents, I have all of the scripts that you need. I will happily share them with you. I have my setup for my YouTube. Even if you're not on my brokerage, I will tell people, and nobody ever takes me up on it, again, because I think it's hard. But when I met one of my business partners, Lou Raven, and I consider them business partners, that's how I refer to the agents that I work with. When I met him, and he's in Connecticut, he was doing some video and also reaching out to other agents. And I said, wow, I really want to be able to learn how to do that. And he said, yeah, well, I really want to be able to learn what you're doing. It's like, great, this is a great match. And so we share a video editor now and share so many resources. And it's a little easier. I'm not in the same marketplace as him. And that's another part of EXP because you have access to agents in all other markets, and maybe that's part of it. But with the team that I'm building here, they know they can use anything of mine. Because again, my client is not necessarily going to want to work with another agent. That's why they're working with me. So why would I care if another agent, that there's plenty of people to go around.
I agree. Jess, I am so delighted that you said yes. It's been great having this chat with you. And for more information on Jess, keep an eye on the credits where you'll see my email and a way to either get in touch with Jess or get in touch with me with any questions. So Jess, it's been a delight having you on. And this is Money and Impact with Suzanne Caldeira. Keep an eye out on the credits for my email if there's any questions on today's guests or any questions for me. As always, thanks for watching. See you soon.